Alright, Mom, I just wanted to give you an update on our wine. It's been 24 hours since you've seen it last. And if you recall, the last thing we did was introduce 1 teaspoon of potassium metabisulfite. And what that was for was to kill all the native yeast that might have made its way into the wine through the grape skins or whatever. So it's been 24 hours and all that yeast has probably most likely been killed by the sulfites, and now we have to reintroduce our own selected yeast. So if you recall, I purchased 5 packets of our wine yeast, and what we're going to do now is we're going to activate this yeast and we're going to reintroduce it into our wine. So the first step to activating the yeast is to put it in a warm liquid, preferably right around 100 degrees. But you don't want it over 104 degrees or it'll kill the yeast. This is the wine must from the 30 gallons, and I just heated it up right around 100 degrees. So we're going to go ahead and activate some yeast. It smells a lot like bread yeast, amazingly like it, but I'm sure the strain is quite different, but that's what it smells like right off the bat. Alright, I'm going to let that sit for about 10 minutes and hopefully it'll start bubbling up a little bit. And then once that happens, I will introduce this yeast into our must. Alright, welcome back. Well, we've activated our yeast and it's alive, it's doing well, and we're going to introduce it into our must. But before we do that, I wanted to give you a review on what's happening or what's going to happen. So, these things in here are hydrometers, and they give a Brix reading of how much sugar is in our must. So we have a current reading of 23 Brix, and what's going to happen is, after we introduce our yeast and put it in there, it'll populate and start eating away at the sugar, and it will convert it into carbon dioxide and alcohol. And at that point, over the next 7 to 10 days, the yeast will eat away at all the sugar, and the Brix level will go from 23 all the way down to 0, or close to 0. And at that point, it will be considered wine. So here we go. We got our yeast, and I'm just going to dump it in there. Here we go. Alright, now I might stir it a little bit, but really it's going to be hands off, and we'll check in tomorrow morning, and what I hope to see is little bubbles starting to form, and that'll be the CO2 escaping from our wine. And that's a good sign of the yeast eating away at the sugars and converting them to carbon dioxide and alcohol. So we'll check in tomorrow.